These primitive people are awesome. They found a few piles of cow dung and placed it directly on their face. Dozens of them crawled forward and got closer to the herd of cattle. Under the cover of the smell, they got closer and closer. A few ants who tried to watch the action were gobbled up straight away. Suddenly they made a charge. The herd was frightened and began to scurry. The primitive people threw spears. The herd was so frightened that they made a sharp turn, but on their side was a cliff. They couldn't stop. The cattle fell straight down, but one of the bulls stopped and turned his head and charged at Little Chief. Little Chief hung on the bull's horns. The bull rushed toward the cliff. The chief threw his spear and hit the bull, but it was too late. Little Chief and the bull fell off the cliff. The chief rushed over to see his child. Little Chief grabbed a protruding rock, but it only lasted a few seconds. Little Chief fell onto a small platform in the middle of the cliff, but he didn't move. The chief shouted and tried to jump to save his son, but he was pulled back by his men. The men said, The chief understood. Besides, at this distance, they had no way to pull his body up. The chief, desperate at the edge of the cliff, watched his son for a whole day. But since he had the whole tribe to take care of, the chief had no choice but to go. The chief piled up stones on the cliff. To honor his son, they went around to the bottom of the cliff to collect a lot of beef for the winter. Then they went back. A few hours later though, Little Chief was still alive. This vulture had it coming. It flew up to the cliff and tried to eat Little Chief. It went straight up and bit him. Little Chief woke up in pain. He grabbed the vulture and threw it against the wall. The vulture landed directly into a river. Little Chief then realized that he couldn't climb up or climb down and was trapped in the middle of the cliff. He called out to his father, but there was no answer. Little Chief thought about it for hours and decided to climb down to survive. But it's not easy to climb down a cliff with your bare hands. Little Chief made it a few meters before he couldn't. He was hanging between the cliffs, soon to fall. At that moment the weather changed suddenly. A storm began. The rain was so heavy that the cliffs became even more slippery, but the valley was also soon filled with water. Little Chief could not hold on any longer, so he let go and fell. When Little Chief woke up, fortunately, the water saved his life. He took off his shoes and looked. His right foot was very swollen. It seemed like his bone was dislocated. Little Chief stuck his foot between the rocks and pushed hard in the opposite direction. He straightened his bone and tied a wooden stick to his foot. Now he could barely walk. At that moment, the sound of wolves was heard in the distance. Little Chief ran away. He knew that once the wolves locked onto him, he was as good as dead. On the dead tree, Little Chief hardly got any sleep. It was dawn and there was nothing to eat. So, he found a worm to satisfy his hunger. Then Little Chief looked up. Oh my God, the wolves were right in front of him. Little Chief ran. Little Chief climbed up a small tree, but a wolf bit his foot. Little Chief took out his stone knife and slashed at it. The wolf was wounded and fell to the ground. The other wolves saw that Little Chief had a weapon and decided not to charge. And so, it went on for another day. When Little Chief went down to check, the wolf had lost its strength and remained motionless. As we look closely, we see Little Chief raising his spear to stab the wolf to death and end all the trouble he's facing. But the wolf kept wailing. Little Chief relented and let the wolf go. But in these times of weakness and strength, it's hard to say whether not killing your opponent when you have the advantage is a blessing or a curse. Little Chief brought a rope. What was he about to do? It's much safer this way. He takes the wolf in his arms and starts moving. Little Chief goes to the mountain. He started to drill wood for a fire just like his father, but many of his attempts were unsuccessful. Some may say that Little Chief is stupid, but among Little Chief's tribe, he was the best in his age group. Their tribe has 2 exams. The first test is, find their own stones and make a stone knife, to see who's sharp. The stone knife made by the young chief was perfect. The second test was training on how to take a beating, and Little Chief did well. At dawn, Little Chief found some herbs nearby and wrapped it around his leg. The wolf's condition also improved. He took the rope down himself. Little Chief decided to take a risk and give the wolf some water. In the beginning, the wolf showed his fierce face. He growled and bared his teeth. But Little Chief showed the wolf goodwill, and the wolf understood. This was their first interaction. Watching the wolf drink the water with such relish, Little Chief smiled. Little Chief grabbed some maggots and put them on the wolf's wound to eat the rotten flesh. Some others were thrown into the wolf's mouth, but the wolf had never eaten worms before. Little Chief had to demonstrate and ate a few before the wolf started to eat. Healing and feeding together like this were 2 more perfect interactions between the 2 of them. Little Chief went out looking for food and got a wild rabbit. The wolf saw that there was meat to eat and came to grab it. Little Chief beat him back with a stick. The master must eat first. Little Chief began to drill wood for a fire. After a long period of friction, the fire finally started. In the eyes of animals, those who can control fire at will are the equivalent of a god. This fire was essential to taming the wolf. It is also in the nature of animals to follow the strongest. Little Chief tells the wolf, "You can only eat after I eat. That's the rule." Then in front of the wolf, he made some sharp stone knives. Little Chief followed the North Star to try and find his way home. At dawn, Little Chief decided to go home by himself. After all, it was too dangerous to have the wolf around. If he ever got injured, then perhaps it would attack him. But how could Little Chief shoo the wolf away? He always followed him. Little Chief threw a stick, but the wolf picked it up. Little Chief thought to himself, "I am not a real wolf, but you are definitely a real dog." As they walked, they got hungry again. The wolf spotted some wild pigs and rushed over. The wolf chased the pigs towards Little Chief. Alpha wanted them to work together, but Little Chief was a coward. He missed and the pigs ran away. The wolf was also a bit confused. "Aren't you supposed to be great?" While looking at Little Chief with contempt, Little Chief hastily explained.
Minahara.
Later, Little Chief named the wolf Alpha. A few days later, they started hunting, and finally, they caught a little rabbit. With food to eat, Alpha slowly became obedient. Little Chief slept at night. Alpha tried to come over to sleep beside him. However, Little Chief chased him away, but at dawn, Alpha was still sleeping next to him. Little Chief found that the wolf smelled bad, so he took Alpha to bathe with him. Playing in the water brought them closer together. Alpha found fish in the water and grabbed one in one bite. A heavy snow came, bringing cold weather. There was not much prey left. Finally, a wild boar was found. Little Chief and Alpha went after it at the same time. Alpha pounced on the boar. Little Chief went up and stabbed it, successfully catching the prey. This was enough to eat for days. One night a dark creature visited. It was a black wolf. It turned out to be Alpha's companion that had come to pick him up. Little Chief said, "You can go back to your pack now." Alpha was reluctant to leave, always looking back.
Santi Butti.
Only then did Alpha go away. Little Chief spent a few days alone. He was very sad. After all, he had a bond with Alpha. One day he saw Alpha on the ice. Little Chief ran across the ice, but he accidentally fell into the lake. Little Chief was under the ice and Alpha was on top of it. They were both anxiously tapping the ice. Finally, the ice broke apart. Little Chief had one hand exposed, and Alpha pulled him up. Alpha licked Little Chief's face. Wearing wet clothes in this weather would only take 2 hours for him to freeze to death. So, Little Chief hurriedly built a fire, then undressed naked, and held Alpha for a few hours. Alpha saved Little Chief's life. It was dawn and one man and one wolf were walking along. Finally, they found someone, but when they rushed over, they discovered, holy shit, it's a frozen man. Little Chief just took the frozen man's bow and arrow, and went on his way. In this weather, predators are hungry and crazy. They were hit by a pack of hyenas, and ran into a cave. Strangely, the hyenas were afraid to enter. Alpha realized the danger. Turns out it was the panther's cave. The panther pounces on Little Chief, but Alpha cut in, and fought with the black panther. But after all, there was a huge difference in size and strength. Alpha was dying. At the moment of crisis, Little Chief shot an arrow, and the black panther was shot dead. But Alpha was also seriously wounded. Alpha saved Little Chief once more. Alpha was too badly wounded, so Little Chief picked up Alpha and continued on their way. Too tired, Little Chief collapsed in the snow. If he fell asleep like this, he would never wake up again. Little Chief dreamed that his father and mother were calling him. He was immediately motivated. Little Chief carried Alpha. After another 2 hours of walking, they finally reached the tribe. The tribe couldn't believe it. Little Chief was back. When the chief saw his son, he held his hand and said, The father took him in his arms. At that moment the mother also rushed over. She shouted her son's name. The mother cried. In the last moments as he fainted, Little Chief pointed at Alpha and said, trembling. Alpha saw his master, meet his family, and closed his eyes in peace. Little Chief was in a coma. He kept calling out Alpha's name. The tribe's high priest personally treated Alpha. The wolf's life force was still very strong, and Alpha came back to life. Alpha had many cubs, and with his family joined the tribe. The cubs grew up slowly. Little Chief also became the chief of the tribe. With the addition of Alpha, the tribe grew even bigger. In the sunrise, Little Chief held up the little wolf cub. This is the ancestor of the dog. One encounter created a race. You protect me for a while and I'll protect you for a lifetime. This is the end of the film. This film is called Alpha. Our question for this issue: do you like dogs? If you do, comment 111. This film is a story from 20,000 years ago. It was a touching story to film. Director Alan Hughes contributed greatly to its production. Well, that's all for this issue. Remember to like the video and follow and subscribe. See you next time. Bye bye.